What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. In today's episode, we're going to be extending the deep dive series by talking about the legendary beast Raikou. Raikou will be a reward after we end up doing the Pokemon Go event of Pokemon Go Fest in Chicago. It will become worldwide, as well as having a shiny variation. So a lot of people may be curious about Raikou because for the most part, some of the newer players have only seen this just in the special research, and you're really wondering whether or not you should power it up. Well, we are going to be talking about that today, talking about it from a raid perspective, PvP, unlocking a secondary charge move, and then of course so much more, so you can decide what you want to do with Raikou. And I can promise you it will not disappoint. If you do enjoy this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Raikou with a max CP of 3,452. Raikou is a pure electric type Pokemon. Go ahead and check out these fantastic stats. The best stat, of course, being its attack stat at 241, ranked at 37th, and its worst stat is pretty much even between the stamina and defense, an overall ranking of 19th in Pokemon Go. Moving over to the moveset, we have a bit of an update because it simply got its moveset expanded. We've got mostly electric type moves, but then as you will see at the bottom, we now include Shadow Ball. So with all of that kind of set up, the best moveset that you mostly want to go with is Wild Charge on just the typical charge move. But other than that, we're going to talk about it first from a raid perspective. And by the way, I will briefly mention how it performs with Shadow Ball, but we can go ahead and get into the first raid result. Pulling up the results versus a Kyogre, which will be coming out during the summer, thought that would be very fitting. Raikou is taking that #1 spot, and as you see, kind of clipping at its heels, we have Pokemon like Electivire as well as Magnezone. Definitely keep that in mind. They could somewhat be the budget options to Raikou, but as you can see, Raikou taking on that #1 spot, so that is definitely impressive from that regard. But I did want to point out something that was kind of interesting, because in some capacity, it might depend a little bit more on the actual Pokemon that you go up against. Check out these results briefly for Lugia. As you can see, we've got a Pokemon like Electivire able to outperform Raikou slightly by a handful of seconds, but if you take a closer look at the feints, you'll see Electivire has quite a bit of feints over Raikou, so Raikou would be more debatable as a better option in this case. But if you're kind of wondering how this is possible, it really comes down to the just general stats. Electivire technically does have a higher attack stat, so in some cases you will see it kind of peak up ahead, but keep in mind there's going to be a lot of feints to go along with it. As far as the performance is concerned with Shadow Ball, the most recent move added in for Raikou, it's not looking quite as good. There's a couple times where it may get into the #10 spot, 11, 12, 15th, somewhere around in that range, so I don't suggest you end up unlocking a secondary charge move for a performance perspective on the rating side. Wanted to go ahead and mention that because people at least might be curious for it. So heading over to PvP, we do have some good news for Raikou, especially in the Masters League, where it does place in at the top 13th spot. In at 13, we've got Shadow Ball and Wild Charge, which is definitely impressive. So in this case, if you are considering having just a beast for PvP, then yes, Shadow Ball would be a great move. You're not going to get stab benefit, you're not going to get coverage, because Electric type is only weak to ground. You're basically just going to get super effective damage versus some other types because of the move of Shadow Ball. That's just something we've kind of seen in the past, where we have a Pokemon that just kind of straight lines it and only has one type of attack. We've luckily seen some flexibility, of course, with Raikou, for example, and then another one, probably like Moltres gaining Sky Attack, is definitely one of the more favorite instances that has happened. Definitely beneficial for PvP, but unfortunately going down to some lower leagues, Raikou just really loses its overall effectiveness. And then if you're talking about a Sylph Road Arena where you're getting down to the Great League, there's so many better options than Raikou at such a low level for it to get down to that level, so definitely keep that in mind. So in regards to powering up this Pokemon, I'm giving it the seal of approval. You definitely want to power up Raikou if you are talking about it from the player versus everything, or versus raid bosses. This guy is a monster. It has kind of taken a hit, if you will say, from so many Pokemon taking over Zapdos. And then of course Electivire, Magnezone, they're kind of left in the dust. Raikou clearly dominates as an electric type Pokemon, so that's very exciting. Unlocking a secondary charge move, you're not going to get much value out of Shadow Ball from the rating perspective, so if you do consider doing that, I would only do that if you are using it from PvP and you're mostly interested in the Masters League, because it will unfortunately be quite expensive to unlock Shadow Ball, so definitely use it wisely. So yeah, I am so excited about Raikou. It has not been back in raids since 2017. To have it back is definitely exciting, and I know a lot of the players, especially if you have come on more recently, you are very excited about this, and I personally am too. So I want to know what you think about Raikou in the comments section below. What do you think about it versus the other legendary beasts like Entei and Suicune? What is your favorite? Definitely let me know in the comments section below, and I will see you next time. I wanted to extend a huge thank you to the supporters over at Patreon. You definitely make this possible, and I 100% appreciate this support. If you are interested in supporting my channel on Patreon, definitely feel free to check out the link in the description.